How you doing, Sophie?
I'm all right, thank you. Lovely to see you.
And you. We just before we start recording, we talk about some nice rest and relaxation after my
Yes.
holiday. So yeah, we're kind of I really liked what you said, Sophie, about your this is your new year
Yep.
because people are back, people are cracking on with things, and it's the perfect time to think, well, what's my next campaign? What's my next strategy?
Yeah.
And I think really, I mean, before we get stuck into it, do you want to tell us a bit about yourself, Sophie, and what you do? How you help
Yeah.
people?
I'm Sophie. I run your marketing department. So literally your marketing department. We basically are a resource for people to use. Very much strategy led. I have a big belief that strategy drives everything. Marketing is great, but if you just do the tactics, then doesn't always work. And I've seen so much of it, particularly since I've gone on my own. So my passion is making sure that we have a strategy in place. So one that is looking at ultimately where you differentiate in the market. USPs are really difficult. We all do the same thing,
Mm.
but we all have something different that we do. So it's about really getting to grips with that, and understanding what your customers think. Doing customer interviews, having the
Mm.
bravery to do that,
Yeah.
and then understanding what's happening in the market, and then understanding your company and kind of bringing everything together so that we can have a really strong message
Mm.
when we do marketing. So when we work with guys like you, we know that it's a really strong brief and that it will work straight off. And then I have a team who deliver and help do the project management. So we are like the internal marketing team working with agencies for creative, but kind of helping to manage the marketing through. So acting as a sort of conduit between the client and agencies. So that's what we do really.
Yeah, and I think I mean, this is why we've got together in the first place. Is
Yeah,
I really feel the days of the big sprawling agencies are kind of gone. A lot of them have scaled back massively, certainly.
yeah,
And we very sort of clearly a few years ago now said we do brand, we do web, we do bits around it, graphic design, content and things, but
yeah,
that's our core. And we don't pretend to do everything. We can help with lots of things. We know lots of people like yourself.
yeah,
We could help thread things together, but actually, your strategy is absolutely the core of this. And I
yeah,
think we have a lot of conversation with clients. We'll do the website and talk about next plans. Or if I know we're going to be doing this, we're like, okay, great. And then a few months later, oh, I've not really had got a website, but I haven't got loads of leads through it. It's like, well, it's not a painting you just put on the wall and leave. You want to share it with people and draw people to it. And what's your plan? What's the big idea? What's the else? Like, okay. And I think we work with a lot of companies who have internal marketing people who are fantastic.
yeah,
But I think certainly it's good to have an external recommendation and a big
mm,
picture that's not too rooted in the business, who understands the industry or sector. And we've certainly found we do have some niches and sort of audience pillars, but we like the variety and look at sort of cross
yeah.
market different things and think, actually, this worked really well in the property space. How would it work in insurance or whatever it is?
Yeah, but it's really interesting that because I get quite a lot of clients going, well, you haven't got sector experience. And actually, kind of one of certainly my specialisms is that I've worked across all sectors. And it's amazing how everything links up. So when you're doing a strategy, you kind of go, so the strategies I do are kind of it's not a brand strategy because that would be kind of bigging it up too much, but fundamentally it creates a unique selling proposition and creates a hook for everyone. And I kind of industry sector is really great if you've got experience, but what I've found working with some people is that you can get a bit blinkered. So it is
Absolutely.
good to have a bit of variety. And I think that's a real thing to when you choose agencies, it's very easy to go, oh, well, I'll go with the kitchen one. I worked with a client recently, worked with a kitchen specialist, and they pigeonholed them. They went, oh, you're
Mm.
this. And it's kind of like, and then when they brought me in, I kind of went, I don't think you are, Ren. I think you're somewhere else.
Mm.
And we tease that out. It's really important to tease it out. But the thing is, as you said, a lot of the time that, if a website doesn't work, it's because messaging's not right. So I get a lot
Yeah.
of people coming up to me and going, "Oh, the messaging is not working. Oh, how do I change my marketing? I need to change my website. I need to change
Mm.
my social media." But actually, have you got the messaging right? And are you briefing people like yourselves
Mm.
correctly so that you guys can also do the best job? Because a lot of people, if you don't know who your customer is, and you don't know what your key message is, that's going to make you stand out in the market.
For sure.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
it makes everyone else's job a lot more difficult, even internal people a lot more difficult, and the sales staff. If you have
Yeah.
this, actually, what it does is help everyone in the company.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
and you as a marketeer get the best work out of everyone.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I think it's. I understand for some people they want to have one point of contact for all of it, which it does
Yeah,
make sense in a lot of ways. And I think this is particularly where you have strengths in that you can
yeah.
pull people together, but manage the sort of overall project. But I think we always find putting the right people in for the right task. We work with several
Yeah,
copywriters,
absolutely.
and we know someone might be better. We'll often say, look, here's two people, have a chat with both, and see who you gel with, sort of thing. But you tend to know actually this is probably the right person for that part,
Yeah, I think
and
so.
it
And I
makes it
think
more nimble that way.
that's kind of what we pride ourselves on is actually getting the right partners. So I don't want to be a marketing agency. The creative and copywriting and development design is a specialized skill.
Yeah.
And I know that we've all got Canva and we've got that, but fundamentally, those who are going to give you something that's really good, you need to be with a specialist. So I think
Mm.
definitely it's worth, you know, that's why we try to manage everything
Mm.
alongside the marketing people, within the business. But what you tend to find, what I found is that you don't have a strategy. So it's very difficult particularly when you're a sole marketer, or there's two of you in the marketing team, tend to get driven by tend to be very, very busy doing all sorts of things, and actually sometimes just need a little bit of a steer of how do I get the board to understand things. So
Mm.
it is good because you guys can really help on the website side of going,
Mm.
actually that's not going to work, there's no point, you need a brochure site. I know that everyone wants 50 pages, but ultimately it's
Mm.
more effective to have a brochure site or vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah.
But actually it's quite good to have someone like us coming in and going, this is how you sell it into the board, or us coming to the board and going, actually, this is the messaging, this is what we need. Because part of the strategy that I do is kind of also looking at what the comms needs to be. Website
Mm.
is, we know the website is central to everything. And then sort of because that's where everyone ends up,
Yeah.
regardless of what type of media you're doing. But what was also then appropriate, because if most things are coming through referrals, there's
Mm.
no point spending loads of money on PPs, on Google ads,
Absolutely. Yeah.
because that's just a waste of money. So
Mm.
part of what we do is kind of avoid like that knee jerk, oh, we've got to do this because that's what
Yeah.
everyone's doing. It's like, actually, because we know the customer, because we've done customer interviews, we can go, actually, you know what? The website is really important. They're going to buy off the website, so let's do that. Or they might
Mm.
buy off Amazon, for example, or I don't know. There is just referrals where you get your business. So how are we going to build the referral side of it, the
Yeah.
partnership side? And so it's and again linking with people like you guys to go, right, this is appropriate. And it's also
Mm.
like, so, I mean, one of the examples I've got is a glass company, and they were trying. One of my clients was a glass company, top-notch glass company. And they came to us, and then they said, "Oh, well, we're actually producing in Lithuania," and it's kind of like that. If you're like bespoke glass and building them in Lithuania doesn't work. So what we ended up doing was kind of suggesting a split in the company, and so we could really focus on,
Mm.
the bespoke and have that uniqueness, and then be able to do supply only, for example. So that's kind of like
Mm.
really important, because if they come to you, which and they've just gone on, we need a Windows website, then you would have created this thing that actually wasn't appropriate and wasn't going to get the results that they want.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to come back to that point about I love that you do the client interviews, and we always dig deep in terms of, your website is not necessarily what you want it to be. What do your
Yeah,
clients want from it? And but then we wouldn't necessarily go as deep as you just described,
yeah,
because actually, which if they've come with us with the clear need for that, great. Are we sure it's then, is the messaging right for it?
yeah,
But it's yeah,
absolutely.
it's making it work for your, but generally it's based on what they tell us. We're not going to go and interview their clients
No.
necessarily. So
And
yeah,
I don't think that's not your job, because
no,
fundamentally,
no,
as you know, if you're mature in your marketing, I do think that you do need to have a number of, years under your belt. So this isn't startup stuff.
mm,
This is stuff where you're really strong on where you want to be. It actually isn't your job to do that type of stuff. It's always
yeah,
been the internal marketer that should be doing that. I think there's not always been, because it's just like, oh, we'll get a web company to do that.
mm,
And I think
mm,
it's just kind of having that understanding of the value. So you guys do
sure,
what you can. I just feel quite strongly that you should be doing, if you want to scale your business, we can do all of that, but if you want to
mm,
scale your business, you need to understand. And what I
yeah,
find very interesting with customer interviews, which is why I kind of add that to my strategy, is that you actually get what the business is actually, what it is to the customer, not what we
mm,
all think. We all have perceptions of what our business is. So,
absolutely,
and I think for you guys, which is why I kind of really like this interim thing, because it means that
mm,
I know that I can work with great creatives to produce a website that's absolutely right,
mm,
and give you the information you actually need. So yeah, it's an interesting one, but
yeah,
yeah, I think that's, you will always dig deep, and we've been through your process, and you do dig
yeah,
deep.
yeah,
It's just those extra nuances that for the messaging, and we have to give you the messaging, because that's
yeah,
our
yeah.
job as the
It's
marketing
a
person.
special, yeah.
Yeah,
And that's definitely one for another day. Is looking
yeah,
through that bit. That's the biggest bit to it, and the hardest bit to get right. I think. I
yeah,
think yeah, certainly we had a couple of years ago. We did a proper zoom out of our business. I think okay, we're sort of 10 years in, but okay, loads have changed. Have we changed how we're communicating? What we're doing differently? And it was really interesting because you can get lost in the weeds of your own business,
yeah,
and like, yeah, what is it? And it's that, but your customers say do this. Oh, right, okay. So yeah,
yeah.
it's.
I,
I think this is why an external resource can often be really, really powerful, because you're not wedded to an older version of the company or anything like that. It's
no.
a much more objective view of it, right?
And I mean, I take into consideration everything, because there's still a huge history, but actually, through all the research that we do, you can kind of find a uniqueness within, and find a kind of a specific target audience. And it doesn't mean to say that you can't change that. And
Mm,
I think it's one of the most difficult things. And I think particularly for people coming to you guys, within marketing, you focus on one thing, and it's very difficult to do that as a business owner. It's like, but I do this as well, and I do this as well. I do this as well, which means that for you guys, it's really difficult, because it's like you can't quite nail it. So, again, having an external person who goes, you know what, we've just got to focus on this, and we'll focus on this for 6 months, see how it
yeah,
does, and everything else will come. It's taking a leap of faith, but it's also having
yeah,
someone helping you, supporting you to take that leap
absolutely.
of faith, and to make sure that everyone's bought into it,
Mm, mm,
and making sure that's through, so that it makes it a superb website for you guys, and all your
absolutely.
other work, and the brand, actually, because the brand is also an interesting one. Changing branding is very interesting, but if there's a
Mm,
reason to do it, it
mm,
means that you've got a much stronger brand when you come out of it.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's going through the motions, right?
Mm.
It's right. We need some help. We need to get on with this, and yeah,
Yeah, and it can feel like, what am I getting? And I have a lot of clients go, oh, you're just telling me what I've told know already, and it's kind of like, I might be, but I'm doing it in a very succinct way. And then, like, because there's a lot of clients who look at it and go, and then they come back and they go, no, yeah, you've just summarized everything I've been trying to summarize for the last 5 years. So it's, and I think that's a specialism.
Yeah.
Being able to look at that and go, right, okay, this is actually what it's all about. And also I think businesses evolve and you have to come back.
Yeah.
So many of the clients I work with, you go, well, that's what I started with. And it's like, yeah, that is what you started with,
That's your
because that's
core. Yeah.
fundamentally what the problem you're solving. But as your business grows and as we evolve, it's like, oh, it's not quite right. So a lot of the time I go back to the beginning and it's like, oh, is that,
Yeah.
it's kind of like, yeah, you've evolved. So we need to just make sure that that's what our focus is and go back to
Absolutely.
core is, which is really interesting.
Yeah, we see a lot of people get dragged on the currents of trends like that. It's like, okay, that's been a flash in the pan, and that looked good 5 years ago or 2 years ago, but it's like things have moved on, and it's
Oh yeah,
but that's that's kind of skin deep, really. The actual core, the messaging, the big idea, that's the magic, right?
yeah,
That's the
that is the
magic.
magic. Yeah, and you can get caught up with things, and I think we can all do that. I remember doing QR codes 14 years ago. It was far too
Yeah,
advanced for the market. Phones weren't
yeah,
far enough advanced. Now you see QR codes everywhere. If you'd asked me
yeah.
at the time, I just went, well, this isn't really working. And you thought they'd gone away, and actually they haven't. It just everything's evolved, and now we can use QR codes on a regular basis.
It's easy never. Yeah, yeah.
And it's
I
appropriate because the customers can use it.
Absolutely, yeah. I almost kind of see it as it's like the sat nav of a website of URLs, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
You don't actually know what website it is. You scan the code
Yeah,
and
just
nothing go.
scan it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I remember quite clearly poo-pooing it a few years ago, thinking, "Oh, it's old hat, like it's a bit of a fad." How wrong was I? And I'm happy
I
to admit
know.
that.
I have to,
They're great.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
podcasts is my admission on that. And I just
Right.
was going, what is this all about? Podcasts.
Yep.
Um,
And here we
and
are.
and here we are. Podcast is like the thing.
Yeah.
But at the time, and that was 12 years ago, but
Mm.
it was just like, because there's a lot of evidence to say, nah. But
Mm.
and that's the other thing that's interesting actually with research and stuff, is finding the evidence that is correct.
Mm.
Because we all go and find the evidence
Yeah.
that is correct. So that's, I think, also quite a good reason for finding someone externally, because you won't get dragged in. They always talk about the World War, where they studied where the bullet holes were in planes, and then
Okay.
reinforced those. But the reality was the ones that came back didn't have a problem. It's the ones that got blown up, and they were the ones who were being shot in the middle of the plane. And so that's because of
Uh,
reinforcement. But the research, because of just the way it was, and when you're inside the business, you're looking for specific things. So again,
yeah.
when you're outside the business, I think you can be a little bit more, sometimes it can be a bit brutal, where you go,
Yep.
that's just not right. That's what
Yeah.
you want. That's not what your customer wants. So yeah, that's interesting.
This is it. Yeah. And it's having the humility, really, I think, to say, yeah, let's ripple up and piece it back together.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to, right? Sometimes you need to
Yeah,
go
and
to that level.
actually, I mean, I've done it a few times. It's like, what do people really want from marketing? I'm part of a business
Mm.
group. And everyone goes, God, you just asked this like open question. I'm going, yeah, but I want to know, because there's no point me
Mm.
flogging something that nobody wants, or something that people go, oh, that's just a waste of time. So, I
Mm.
would rather know if people, what's pissing you off about marketing? Because
Yeah.
that's the other question I ask, which is always really interesting. What's pissing you off? So that when, we were talking, I'm working with a Recruit for Spouses at the moment, which is
Mm.
a kind of charity that I'm kind of very much aligned to.
Yeah.
And I've lost my train of thought. Oh yes, that's it. And it's like an important part was, when we were talking to the clients, you know, what don't you like about recruitment agencies? And actually what that does is allow us to go, right, actually we're not that brilliant, number one.
Yeah.
And number two, we're never going to say this. We're never going to, we can counter it and go, oh, we're not commission based. We're not this, we're not that, because that's what people hate hearing about. So it's quite interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. But we did, I worked at the branding actually a long time ago, and we always right, are we a Me Too brand or are we a mover and shaker and doing the opposite? And, you know,
yeah,
it depends, right? Yeah. It depends on the company, depends on the market and what you're doing, right? But
yeah, absolutely. And depends on the owners, and, you know, it's all, yeah, it all depends on, and it depends on where the business is going as well, because, you know, it does evolve, and, you know, so it may be actually that's the appropriate way to go for the business. So that's why we always look at the business and a lot of goals, business goals as well, because we've got to take that into consideration and have
for sure
results around that. So I think, you know, again, and you know, we mentor as well as work with, you know, on behalf of your like other marketing departments. So with your marketing department, but I also mentor some of the marketing people just to help them to understand the wider and how to implement the strategy. So that can be a bit of a challenge.
Right. Okay. Yeah. But also interesting to say, you know, you can work with people who already have someone in marketing.
Oh, yeah,
I guess it can be
absolutely.
better,
I mean,
right?
I already do. So quite a lot of the people we work with have people in marketing. They just need a bit of help, or they need the strategy. So one of the clients I'm working with at the moment, they needed the strategy. I did the strategy for them 3 years ago. The business was very new. The arm of the business that I was doing strategy for was very new. We're 3 years on. They've got the sales sorted. They've got you know, a strong business basically, so I could redo it. And then so I did that strategy, but then since then I've been working with the marketing manager to help her to go, oh, what campaign should we do, what do I need to do here, how do I take this strategy and create the messaging, how do I put that into social media. So I've got other people in the team who kind of can look at social media, or I look at email marketing as well. So it's kind of, because it's all very well, you've got the strategy, but you've got to then implement it. And
yeah, that's it. It's all good having this big idea document, but
yeah, which is again why it's so important to use, you know, people like yourselves, because you can translate that. And it, you know, I think we all forget, like, I don't pretend I'm a solicitor, for example, because I wouldn't know how to start. I have a specialism, and again similarly for you guys, and why I use specialists, because that's why we don't have anyone in house, because I want to use specialists that can bring out the best from what we do. And that's really important. And working and teaching the new generation that's coming through.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just our agency photographer, that's it. You know, it's like, well, we work with a few, you know, here's the portfolios, what do you think? We think this should, you know, this guy work best, or she'd be better at this. It gives me flexibility. Yeah,
it does give you flexibility. And I you know, and I think it's also about personalities. You know, if I've got a marketing manager who's got a certain personality, then I also, not only for the brand, I also need to help those, you know, because everything's about relationships in all of these things. You know, and trust. So, you know, recommend you guys, you know, for CN Glass, for example, are, you know, glass clients, because you guys are really down to earth and they're very down to earth. Do you know what I mean? So it's also making sure it's the right fit, because if we've got airy fairy, that won't work with certain clients. Certain clients just want, you know, beautiful websites, and we can do that, and that's appropriate. But like, you know, we find the right fit that works for everyone.
Definitely. We've talked about this before. Is, you know, we've done our own ideal client profile, and it could work in any industry. Do we get on with them? Do we have a connection on the first call? That's so important. It's so important.
Yeah, so important. Like, because otherwise it just doesn't, you know. And do you believe in what they're doing as well? For some of the clients I've, you know, where we've done the strategy and it's sort of not gone any further, is is the not real belief in doing strategy.
Yeah.
I think you have to be in a certain space in your business of actually I want to scale this and I want to move it on. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend a strategy for everyone. In actual fact, I think you have to be in a certain place in the business of, a strategy is not going to get you immediate leads. It's a long-term thing. But what it will do is provide the foundations. So
it's the long game.
It's a long game. Yeah, it's like a website. I mean, you want a website. So again, this is why it's really good to do things like that before you do what I call long-term projects. So a website should be a long-term project. I know from experience that if you just bolt things on, everything becomes a mess and it becomes the customer journey is terrible. And so, but at times that's fine. It's just if you're getting to, for example, like a 30-page website because you need to blog how many products, then actually that's the time to get the strategy to make sure everything's right. You understand your customers. But if you just kind of need a brochure website,
Yeah. Do you know what? It's funny you say that. We did a proposal actually for a client. They're talking about a 40-page site. Great. We looked at their site. They had 250 pages. They didn't know they had that many pages. It's just really convoluted. It's like, okay, this is not as simple as you think. Yes, it is. Actually, it's not. But it's again, it's that zoom out. We've looked at it objectively and think, okay, do you where there's all this stuff? Probably a lot of it can go. But we need to check. We need to look at these things. Is there SEO value built on those pages? That if we lose that page, we're going to start losing traffic. Maybe it could just be redirected or something. But are you? Let's look at the big picture here.
And I think that's again, you guys can do that, but also I think particularly for those who've got marketing departments, junior marketing, because the tendency is your first marketing person is a junior person that you're expecting to do everything, and they're going to struggle because they haven't got the experience. I mean, I've been in the industry nearly 30 years, but so therefore I can look at something and go, no, you don't want to do that. And I think it is quite good to have that external person as just actually that you have got 250 pages. We need to go down to 40, and just helping make decisions because some pages, exactly as you say, there's SEO, but then at the same time there might be some pages that are doing really well with SEO but aren't going to hit the business target.
Yes.
So it's kind of like we need to swap it.
We need to have the conversation and decide what we're doing.
Yeah, but that's also going to cause pain because suddenly your results aren't going to be quite. So it's kind of then having that person next door to you going, it's okay, and support you guys because because there's so many complexities and little nuances that you only get with experience.
Maybe for sure.
A bit more old and wrinkly.
But it's up to the case. I think this is why we trim down our services. Like, actually, this is our core. We can do other things, but it's not really what we're. I've got to think, right, how did this work again? And I could pull it off, but actually, no, we are focused on these things now, and it's been more powerful for us, 100%.
Yeah, and that's why I don't do any of the creative because. I would rather find the right specialists, and that might be appropriate to have the sector specialists. The copywriting, for example, because they can do it a lot faster, and so it's more cost effective. But I'm exactly the same. And the advantage, I think, the advantage of having us is that we can manage everyone, so bring everyone together. So our tendency is to manage a lot of different people. Fundamentally project managers and strategists to deliver. So I think it's definitely worth having those thinking about it. It's a different approach. But it's also cost effective because I mean I'm an big London agency background, and it's quite a machine you're trying to push through. Things can be quite slow, and you don't always have the right people. The senior people they come in for your first meeting and then that's it, you don't see them again. So actually by using little agencies who work collaboratively together, again, you've got a real strength in that. And it's much more, it might feel cost effective to have everything in one London agency, but we don't have an office, you know, or
lower overhead.
we're not managing like 100 people. So needing all those resources for 100 people and a big office in London.
It's nice. It was nice back in the day. I'm going to say back in the day because I think the landscape's changed a lot. It has, really, really has.
Yeah, it has.
For the better.
Yeah, I think some of it. I miss it. Yeah, I think the social life's gone a bit, but
that is one thing. You know, I used to freelance a lot around a lot of agencies in the Midlands, and I love the camaraderie. And you know, it's like because I work around different agencies, well, you can kind of see what worked at different ones. And
well, and that's the thing, and it was fun. Like I mean, but for me, it's a young person's game. But at the same time, I think it's so important to be in the office when. Sorry, this is my little soapbox. But it's really important when you're in the office because you can see all those different things. If you work in an agency, you can see all the different projects. You go, oh, we could do that for my client. I remember going around and go, you know, I worked on NatWest, and I'd go around and go, oh, look, that's what UNICEF are doing. Like, we could actually do that. Can we do that for like financial services? Or, you know, and similarly, you know, you move from financial services to pharmacy, it's still the same regulation. So it's kind of like, okay, well, you're allowed to do that. Can we do that?
Nice. I think against what we said at the start of the call is the sort of cross-pollination, right? That worked really well, that industry. It could be a disruptor for that one. That's good. So let's give it a go.
And I think actually, like one of the clients I've been working with recently, it's completely, they're going, right, we want to go down social value. And I'm going, I work with a social value agency, which is completely different. And actually social value isn't as exciting as everyone is. It's a bit like the QR codes, really, really in at the moment. But actually, I think we've got a few years before it becomes something that people feel very strongly about. We've had a massive shift with COVID. Massive. So like social value and helping people and community is much stronger, but we're not at the point where all business is thinking about social value. So it's kind of like, that's the other thing, is like something will play in that you have no idea about. You know, beauty industry and architecture, like you wouldn't think they were the same, but they're actually the same target audience. They're having a problem. If they can't afford their beauty products, they're not going to be able to afford the architect. And it's a kind of like
for sure.
So
nice. So I mean, look, I think it's always worth the conversation, isn't it, to see where we go. So what does working with you look like, Sophie? What's your process?
Sorry, say that again.
What's your typical process? Is it starting with a call and then working out from
there? So it's starting with a call where we go into what your marketing issues are. Because for me, it's really important to dig into what you think is the problem, to understand if you've got anything any work that you've done around your brand positioning, what research you've done, because a lot of people have done research. You know, nobody's, you know, a lot of people are trying to get there and what's there. So it's kind of really digging deep into that, and then it is going into the strategy first. So we always do the strategy first. I'm conscious that, you know, it depends on whether you want a taster, because there is, you know, taster of what we do. I can do a marketing review first, or I go straight into strategy. So that's the first project. And then after that, we look at, okay, what communications could we use? The reality is most businesses that we work with are on social media, email, and website. That's the absolute basic.
The core, isn't it?
I call it the brilliant basics. It's core that you need to have right. The messaging needs to go through all of those. So we tend to do a bit of a project around that, and then we talk about how can we help you in the long term, and can, you know, would a retainer be appropriate for us to either help or to provide strategic advice at the higher level. So that's the process really. I'm quite strict on having a strategy. I think it's really important. If you've done it yourself, that's fine. So we can probably do it in a day, but the reason I do it is actually to get to know your business. I need to know the business. Otherwise, we're kind of making it up and going, oh, well, we could do this, but actually I want to do everything really solid, because otherwise it's kind of, oh yeah, maybe we do this, and I want it to work, and particularly because it's a long-term thing. It's not, I can't promise that you're going to get immediate results, but because it takes up to 6 months to get branding updated, messaging updated, website done, all the Google My Business, all the LinkedIn profiles. It takes a while to get there. So I can't promise anything. It doesn't mean we can't do short-term stuff, but it is about a long-term relationship with us.
Definitely. I know some people are always on the fence on retainers, but for me, it's like having a personal trainer. You've got that commitment. Things happen then. I think.
Yeah, and actually, if you're on retainer, we're much more likely. So I've got clients who have gone from retainers to projects at the moment. And the reality is I can't give the same value because I can't go, oh, we're doing a brochure. Now, I happen to know this client very well, so I can do that. But, ultimately, you need to know the bigger picture. It's like, what is happening? Certainly for me, the bigger picture is so important. I've had big discussions with an SEO agency that we use at the moment about, like, I need to know why we're doing things and look at it in the bigger picture and actually go, is pay-per-click for that campaign appropriate? No, it's not. Right, we'll find other ways of doing it. So yeah, I think it's really important to be able to take that step back.
Yeah, and you've got I'm reticent to use the word rules, but you've kind of got like right, does it work with this? Yes or no? Okay, we're not doing it. It's got to all be have some synchronicity to it.
Yeah, and will it bring value to the business? And that's like for you guys. So our brief to you can be, right, okay, the reality is nobody goes on the website. We just need a website there for like people to go and look, make sure that you're real, that you actually exist. Or actually that you want to sell everything through your website, right? Okay. Because I think that's the other thing as well that I find is that I can give realistic costs because I think and do recommendations. Because a lot of the time you can get sucked into stuff. I have had clients come to me and go, I've got to do Google Ads. And I go, no, you don't. Too competitive, or, you're not going to get the leads that you want. So an architect, for example, may probably not appropriate. There might be, and there are ones that do it. But, if you're going to do it, you've got to be really local focused because otherwise you are going to waste
just hemorrhage money. Yeah.
And because pay-per-click is not target specific, despite what everyone likes to think.
Yes.
Do Facebook ads, and even then it's like, oh, is that right? So again, it's that whole like mix. We can work with you guys, and that's why I like working with agencies as well, because you've also got experience, so we can work as a team, which makes it, with the clients, us and you guys, it's a team of going, actually, what, we've done that before and it doesn't work, or and we can kind of all work together to get the best for the client.
Absolutely. That's the goal. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's always the goal.
Excellent. Well, we've already got another discussion planned. I think there's another 2 or 3 topics from this that we could explore deeper. I mean, it's such a wide gamut.
It is such a wide gamut. Yeah, it really is.
Wow. All right. Well, let's wrap it up here then.
Okay.
Any final thoughts before we close?
No, I mean, for me, it's really exciting working with you guys. Certainly, it's really nice to have a very solid process to work with. So, like, we've really enjoyed working with you guys. So, sorry, it's a bit of a plug for you, but
hey, I'll take it.
Overall, I think, and I do think it's worth having a chat if you do want to have an external, person, because it doesn't always feel comfortable to have someone external to the business. But, we can always have a chat about it. And, I'm quite happy to talk to people about their marketing. And then, even if it's just actually, there's no point me doing it, us doing anything, you're not at the right stage, just go straight to detail.
Yeah, cool. Fab. Last question. Marmite, love it or hate it? Love it.
Not very thick.
Right answer. Right answer.
Can't be thick.
No, yeah. I got berated like there's not enough Marmite on that toast. I was like, well, that's how I like it.
I like it. It's nice spread. Like, it's one of my favourite things. I spent a lot of time in France. I was born in France, so I've got a real affinity with baguette with butter and Marmite, my favourite.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Nice. Right, on that note then, thank you very much, Sophie. Look forward to our next chat.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.